Good morning. It's Dayna from the Arts Partnership in Tappyland. Our last meteorological talk with John Wheeler of the week. I can't believe it. I feel like we've been planning this for weeks and weeks, John, and now we're at the end of it.
Sure enough. And what a week it's been. I mean, just meteorologically, it's been ideal for a discussion of spring weather and rain gauges, because we've had showers on, this will be the second day this week of showers. We've had quite a variety of weather. We've had a lot of beautiful, bright, sunny mornings, partly cloudy afternoons. Today's a little more overcast with some showers around. We've had a couple of windy days as well, which is all part of what happens oftentimes this time of year. This has been classic spring weather in the Northern Plains.
Yes, but no snow, which we could have had, as you discussed, the 5 times in May in 1909 or something?
1907. I don't know if there's anyone who listens to this who can remember that or has heard a father or grandfather talk about that spring, but it must have been something. I found an article that was republished in the Forum quite a few years ago when someone was relaying the fact that 1907 was a long time ago. Not everyone had cars. Most people didn't.
Oh, sure.
But the article was referring to the fact, and I don't remember which day it was in May, that people had gotten their sleighs out again.
Oh my gosh.
On 8th Street in Fargo, because there was, you know, an inch or two of snow on the ground, which was enough for sleighing, and it was too muddy for the wagons. So sleighing was the preferred method of travel.
Wow. Well, I'm going to take 2020's weather every day of the week over that weather then, because, you know, that weather is appropriate some months of the year, but not in May. At least not in my May.
Okay.
Maybe your May, John.
Yeah. It's only weather.
Hey, I have a question for you. Were you planning to run the marathon this year? Did that get kiboshed for you?
No, I'm not running as much. I'm doing more biking. I'm getting a little older, and the running joints have held up fine, but I've got a muscle thing around my midsection that causes just discomfort when I'm running out of balance, I suppose. And I've been told I really need to start doing yoga. And when I find some time, I think I will try that. But running just gets me sort of out of whack.
Yeah.
So I went for a nice bike ride yesterday, and that was great out in the sun.
It was a good day to be on our bikes. We were on bikes yesterday too. Well, so that I don't forget this, I just want to say one more last plug of appreciation to you in particular, John. You know, when I came to ask you if you would do this, I had no real plan in mind. I didn't know what we were going to talk about besides the fact that we had this rain gauge as our theme. And I really just kind of threw at you, could we talk every day for 5 days and see how it goes? And to your incredible credit, I'm going to say, because you're married to a artist, and because I know you have to do a lot of improv on the fly as things come up in live reporting. But you just said, yeah, let me check with my higher ups. And if they say yes, I'm absolutely in. And it has been, I expected it would be delightful. It has really exceeded my expectations. These conversations have been a really great way to start the day.
Well, for me too. I mean, it helps, Dana, that you and I are good friends. So
Yes.
we chat easily, and we have many shared experiences in each other's living rooms. So that helps a lot.
Yes.
With our two families. And frankly, you ask great questions because you're an inquisitive mind. So all of that has helped. And I think it's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun chatting with you. It's been wonderful listening to you read, and I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to occasionally myself. So
I will not forget the Appaloosa poem. I have talked about it with 3 or 4 donors as I have been making some calls to some people just saying, did you catch that poem? I'll send you the link, because that was a really stunning poem. The fact that it happened to apply so exquisitely to these conversations was really handy, but it's a great poem, whether you're talking about weather or not.
Weather Central by Ted Kooser, which I think is linked to on Wednesdays?
Yes, it should be on Wednesday's post. Yep.
Yeah.
So just to follow up my gratitude, then Josh Roars and the team at WDAY, who said absolutely, who made the commercial for us. I cannot tell you, John, how many donors have said to me specifically, I listened to your conversation with John this morning and it reminded me to give, or I saw the commercial on TV, or I heard the commercial on the radio. So WDAY, thank you, thank you, thank you. That's a, earned media is hard to come by, and often the kinds of things that nonprofits can't afford to do. So your WDAY Cares program, putting that commercial together for us, is incredible. So thank you to you and to your fabulous employer. That means a lot to us. So you have one last poem to read us.
Why not? This is one of my favorites. It's a Seamus Haney poem. You know, my mother said this last week when we were visiting. If your last name is Haney and you live in Ireland and you have a son and you decide to name him Seamus, you've pretty much committed him to a life of being a poet. I mean, that's the career choice is now made. Seamus Haney, you know, is not going to become a petroleum engineer.
No,
I don't think so. I think he's probably going to be a poet or a novelist or a playwright or something, or an actor. Seamus Haney is wonderful. And this is a poem that I think applies to this. We talked with Emily yesterday about her art. And in this poem called Personal Helicon, he is talking about why he is a poet and what it is that motivates him. What is, I mean, Helicon here, this is his muse, right? What is his literary inspiration? And it's Personal Helicon for Michael Longley, who was a friend of his and also another poet. So, as a child, they could not keep me from wells and old pumps with buckets and windlasses. I loved the dark drop, the trapped sky, the smells of waterweed, fungus, and dank moss. Once in a brickyard with a rotted board top, I savored the rich crash when a bucket plummeted down at the end of a rope, so deep you saw no reflection in it. A shallow one under a dry stone ditch fructified like any aquarium when you dragged out long roots from the soft mulch. A white face hovered over the bottom. Others had echoes, gave back your own call with a clean new music in it. And one was scarcesome, for there out of ferns and tall foxgloves, a rat slapped across my reflection. Now, to pry into roots, to finger slime, to stare big-eyed Narcissus into some spring is beneath all adult dignity. I rhyme to see myself, to set the darkness echoing. So he's too old to mess around with wells anymore. So he writes about them. He writes his memories, and that's really what a poet does. That's what Emily does. Some of her stuff, a lot of her paintings are abstract. Some are, you can clearly get imagery out of them. Some are just colors. But I think, as she explained in her long video that we talked about yesterday, she has an image, a purpose, a goal in mind when she does this. So it isn't just randomness. One thing that I knew when I first met her was that she was freaky weird about how colors work together. And she wasn't even studying to be an artist in college, but just, we met at painting dormitories.
I love your meeting story.
And she just knew how colors worked. And me, I that's a nice color, you know, I like, and she just was always thinking in terms of those things. And so that's why she becomes an artist, because frankly, she has to.
Yes.
So
I love that idea, because I think everybody has artistry in them. I do not believe everybody is an artist. Everyone can appreciate art, they can enjoy art, they can even dabble in it, but that doesn't make you an artist. What makes you an artist, I think, is that burning desire. Doesn't mean you can't do anything else. Lots of us do other things, but at our core, at the true center of who we are, is a longing for artistry that cannot be ignored. And that's an incredible thing. It's both a blessing and sometimes a curse.
Mm.
I'm just going to ask you a quick Seamus Haney follow-up question. I've not read that poem, so that was beautiful. Do you know his poem, Digging?
Probably because I've read his catalog, so it's not coming to mind right away.
He talks about his grandfather was a peat bog cutter.
Oh, yeah. Well, I know that whole sequence. He's got a whole book about the mummy that they found in the
I don't know those.
bog. He's got a whole
I don't know those at all.
book of poems based. You remember it's back in the 70s or 60s, they found that mummified Stone Age man who had been killed as part of. No, it was in somewhere in Northern Europe, Netherlands or something.
Oh, okay.
He was found in a bog, and it was clearly that he was murdered, or it was a ritualized death or something. And it opened up all of this interesting Stone Age culture. And they've since found other bodies in bogs because bogs are so wonderful at preserving bodies. And he's got a whole bunch of poems about the bog man. So I'm sorry, I'm not sure that was the direction you were going. So
it doesn't matter. The one I'm digging is about his grandfather dug peat bogs, and he can't dig, so he digs with his pen.
Oh.
So it's sort of like your poem you just read, this notion of how do you translate someone else's labor to your labor, because there's no question art is labor, which maybe is kind of appropriate for May Day. I don't know. Anyway, I wanted to talk today, John, a little bit about wind, because we live with wind so often in the Midwest and Fargo in particular. And we've talked a little bit about and around it all week. But this idea that, wind is often a nuisance for us because it feels unrelenting, but it serves so many purposes. So can you just talk about where does wind come from?
Oh, sure. Well, wind is it was ancient Greeks who were the first to characterize wind as moving air. They didn't really know yet that many thousands of years ago what an air molecule was. And so in ancient times, the philosophers and scientists referred to the air around us as the ether. And it was thought that it was made of nothing. It was just the ether. And the ether is what fills space. And it was the Greeks who first recognized that wind is moving ether. All right, something moving in the ether, which is actually where the word meteorology comes from. Meteor is a Greek word, and it refers to something that is moving in the air or moving in the ether. And so meteorology then becomes the science of things that move in the air, like raindrops, like snowflakes, like wind, like hailstones, clouds. So that's where that word comes from. It has nothing to do with meteors that we think of now, shooting stars, although that also is something moving through the ether, but in a different context. That's outer space or the edge of outer space, as opposed to the weather that is outside. Wind is moving air molecules, right? So I'm not touching my face, but I can feel that wind, and it begins with a force, and that force is the pressure gradient, which is actually just a difference in air pressure. There is more air over here. There is less air over here, fewer molecules. And so nature just hates an imbalance. So nature takes the air molecules that are over here where there's too many, and it moves them over this way where there isn't enough. So air is always moving from high pressure or high density to low pressure or low density, and that's how it works. But when we sense air, it's not that force, that pressure gradient. We don't sense that as much because it's fairly subtle. Instead, we feel the momentum of wind. So my hand here in this case is fanning the air molecules, and they are moving. That's the force.
Okay.
I feel on my face, that's the momentum of the air molecules hitting me. So there are two parts of wind, right? There is the pressure gradient force, which is the creation of wind. And then there is what wind does by its own momentum as it picks up dust and blows it as it causes snowflakes to stay airborne and to be lifted off the ground in the winter when we have a ground blizzard and things like that. So so that the two sides, and air is also, wind is also, of course, it moves all kinds of things. It moves this time of year. I suffer from hay fever this time of year. So, I can tell early spring when the wind is in the south, because I will wake up in the morning and my head is already plugged because I'm getting stuff that's blown up from Texas. It's the ground may be covered in snow here, but my allergies are acting up. Thank you, wind, So it's the other thing about wind is there are forces that slow it down as well. And the primary force there is friction, which is why when you are in an area where there is a lot of hills and trees and variance of the ground, we call it, there's a technical term for that, is surface roughness. It tends to reduce the wind because it's simply slowed down by all of these objects. The wind is rarely as high in a forest as out in the plains. Where we live out in the Great Plains, there isn't very much to stop the wind. And so we feel more of it. The oceans also tend to be a windier place because there is so little friction.
Oh, I never understood high pressure and low pressure till right now. So that's been very useful to me. I, for years, watched you say, there's a low pressure front moving it. Never really knew what that meant. That's super interesting. So I was thinking today about the fact that wind, moves as wind, but also this idea that wind is a great pollinator.
Yeah.
So if I try to equate it to this campaign this week, actually everybody who's donated, everybody who's participated, from you to all the other pieces of it, have helped us pollinate this arts garden, because you have been this force that has come in so does that mean the donors would be the friction? Is that what we're feeling as we're watching the gauge go up?
I don't know if we want to carry that one through, but
I don't know if we do either. It doesn't sound very positive.
That'll work, I guess.
Are you telling me not to quit my day job and go into meteorology, John?
I'm a little distracted. My dog has just come home and I don't want him to knock over the modem. There we go.
Oh, that's all right. You could put Ollie on. He's so stinking cute. We should probably meet Ollie Williams-Wheeler.
Ollie, well, we met him in a painting on the first day.
That's true. That's true.
Ollie is probably saying, "You're here, Dad. Mom isn't."
Yeah. Well, I think just to try to follow up without getting too metaphorical or anything else with wind, I think there's just something really lovely actually about this last day being a little bit overcast and feeling the wind, because it's these great rushes of wind that usher in change. And what I want to say to everyone who's watching today, who's watched throughout the week, is that this campaign has been hugely successful. I feel like it has ushered in a completely new energy to the Arts Partnership. So Danica, maybe you want to pull up our thermometer for the last time with John today. Oh, I know, we had really nice growth since yesterday. So, again, I just want to acknowledge that we did not reach that really, really, really big goal I set of 1,000 people, but look where we did get. And what I'm so thrilled about is that a number of those donors are brand new, never to us yet donors. So the fact that somebody who didn't know us before came to us in this week and got excited about some piece of what we do and shared their treasure with the Arts Partnership is just amazing. And then anybody who came in as a recurring donor, people who became sustaining donors, people who haven't given for a while and came back, I just want you to know that you are part of this rain gauge, and I am so thrilled with where we're at. When I do Happy Hour later today, I will have Danica post that again, because I know it's going to grow throughout the day, and then you'll get to sort of see where the campaign ends up. But I could not be more pleased with how this week has gone. It's been so fun to just be part of all of this and have it happen in the spring and have it be something positive and fun and light going on in the midst of a lot of uncertainty around so many facets of what COVID-19 has done. So, John, do you have any last parting great words for us?
Yeah, Dayna, when you first came to me, this seemed like a lovely idea, and then COVID-19 happened, and I became afraid that being associated with this, which is a fundraiser during these times, would put me in an awkward position. But it really hasn't at all, because for one thing, I'm really just talking to you. So in that sense, my role in this is a little softer. But in the other thing, I've thought about it. You know, you're not demanding anything of anyone. We're just pleading a case here. And you know, artists need money too, just like food servers do in these times. And these are difficult times. And you didn't meet your goal with this fundraiser, but you know what? You did turn this on to a lot of different people, and the times will get better again soon. We know that. That's faith in life, right? And maybe when things do get a little better, we'll find a way to reach those people again who just can't right now. And I'm sure that some of those people will find something to give at that point in time, even if it isn't today. Right?
Absolutely. We never say no to money. So the campaign is ending, but there's never not a need for it. So John, thank you so much. I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed these. I'm so grateful that we have them recorded so that we can go back from time to time and just kind of revel in the poetry and then in the learning too. I've really learned a lot this week. Didn't even know, I never thought about meteorology being a Greek word. Of course it is. But
well, and I just love talking to you anyway, so I could do that, and we'll do that soon with our spouses on the side. And of course, all of us have been just fascinated this week with the way your hair comes and goes with that freaky tappy screen behind you. That's been so much fun just watching that happen.
It's I do what I can to keep people entertained. John, thanks so much. Have an excellent day. Everybody who's been watching, don't forget you have all day today to continue to give. I think it's going to be an excellent end because it's been an excellent 4 days and a couple of hours. So let us know if there's anything we can do for you. Otherwise, have a great Friday and we'll see you soon. Thanks.